episode. We are going on our fourth show this week, I believe. Tonight, we will be going through our defensive prospects and kind of laying out their grades, what PFF has them ranked, as well as where we have them ranked. What do you feel about your offensive ones from the other night?
Feel pretty good. Mine didn't really line up with PFF too much, which actually makes me feel good. I'm not a big believer in their player rankings, or even really when it comes to their grades. When you see player grades and their ranks, but I feel pretty good about the offensive ones, especially coming off last year where I feel like we were right more than we were wrong. Only time will tell, but I feel good about them.
Yeah, it's one of those where I feel like some of the defensive spots are a little deeper. Obviously, the running class, in my opinion, is the deepest. But then when we were even looking over some of these rankings and grades earlier, I start realizing there's some really good defense players out there.
Yeah, and kind of same with offense. There were some that were deeper than others, or a couple positions that may have been more top heavy, but um, there's a lot of good talent in this draft. Uh, Outside of the quarterback position, uh, I think it's teams who need defense this year. It's a good year to need it because they're kind of loaded across the board.
Yeah, and going through some of the defensive positions, and we'll start here in a minute. There's some guys that I wouldn't mind Denver taking a peep at in the first round of 20, especially when you hit the D line there. And I don't know, I'm not going to say an edge because that's not really what we're after, but linebacker and D line, two positions I feel Denver needs. There's some pretty good guys in that group.
Yeah, and it's even one of those two where you can also wait a round or two on a couple. I think D line, that's one you could probably wait till round 2 or 3 and still get really quality people at, just given the depth. Now, obviously, you're sitting in a position to get one of those top 2 or 3, where they're top 15 overall talent. But once you get past that, you can kind of move D line kind of down your list as far as how urgently do we need to jump into this position. Uh, just because it's specifically interior D lineman, that is extremely deep. Like if that's a position of need, you can pick some back to back picks in like rounds 4 and 5 and get what would typically probably be a round 2, round 3 talent, just given how much there is. So uh, interior D line is one of those positions. It's also a good year to need those.
Yeah, and again, I know the running backs get all the love right now, but I promise you, we're going to show you guys these lists, and there's other positions out there that I don't think they overtake the running back spot. I don't think any of these positions overrule or outweigh what the running backs have. But there's going to be some really good defensive players, and I think we're going to find there's some all-pro level players on the defensive side of the football that I think we're gonna see right away.
Oh yeah, I think there's. I mean, not to just get specific, but if I had to guess, you have 3 to 5 people at every position on defense who are immediate high impact players. No matter where you get them, I think you have at least 5-ish where you can draft them and expect them to play right away and have an impact. And it's crazy to me, right? Like everything offense, besides running backs, we said like yes, there's some depth to it, but it's not that heavy. Well, defense almost across the board, it's like most of these are pretty top heavy and have depth. So I'm curious to see if we see strategy play into that. You can see a few more trade backs from some teams to get a few more of those mid-round picks and really make sure you capitalize on the talent that's in this draft. I think you'll see a very active NFL draft, even compared to normal, just from teams moving and grooving. Maybe somebody falls more than they expected, so they want to move up to get them. But then they'll have another pick, and they're like, okay, now we need to kind of recoup what we lost. Let's trade back a little bit more. So I think it's going to be a fun NFL draft. I mean, it usually is, but just with how much talent, I think it's going to be a wild NFL draft this year.
Yeah, and I know the draft's a few days away. It's a big sports weekend. We watched golf today. Justin Thomas kind of choked, I guess. Had some really bad shots. Scotty was missing some putts. We flipped over to the Nuggets playoff game. They were down 15, came back. I believe they won.
They did.
The Cubs won earlier today again. They didn't give up 10 in the eighth, which is still weird that they gave up 10 and still won.
And the Cardinals got shut out.
Sorry, St. Louis fans, but Blues are playing right now. We have that game going to our right. They are up 3-2 in the second period. I think with 12 minutes to go.
Yep.
Against Winnipeg, best team in hockey. Record-wise, the Blues off to a good start. A couple power play goals, one by Robert Thomas. Your boy Sonny had the other goal. I didn't get a chance to see. I think it was Kyrou had the third goal. But again, we saw how fast Winnipeg scored as well. So it's been a busy weekend. I know we have some of our friends who follow us on Instagram that are real excited for WrestleMania is in Las Vegas this weekend. I know there's a lot of excitement built around that one. So again, enjoy WrestleMania to those of you who watch wrestling. Fun weekend. It's what it's all about again. But without further ado, anything else on the sports front that you want to get?
No, I mean, it's always fun to be a sports fan, but this is one of those times, like right at the end of March Madness, when you start getting playoff sports, so, the NBA and NHL, start ramping into the NFL draft, which is when I feel like the NFL offseason kind of takes that next kind of jolt forward. I don't know. It's always a great time to be a sports fan, but it's a real beautiful time now, so I'm just going to try to soak it in and enjoy it as much as I can.
Oh, yeah, and you think back to Masters Week last weekend. That was
Classic.
a classic tournament, and it kind of set off what is going to be a really good, hopefully the rest of April, unless you're a Royals fan. But again, enjoy your sports week and enjoy Easter for those of you, hopefully the Easter Bunny as well, and treat you guys perfectly. All right, let's dive into our list. Again, I'm still working with new software, so we're not going to keep these up for long, just enough and just long enough for us to kind of get our point across. Is there a specific position you want to start with?
Let's go ahead and just start with edge.
All right, so on these pictures, you're going to see our rankings off to the sides. PFF is in the middle. PFF was pretty straightforward with this. Abdul Carter was number one. I don't think we really had many disagreements as far as that goes. Is there any surprises on your list you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I think I've been pounding the table for this guy for a little bit. The Nick Thornton one and James Pierce. I feel like PFF had them, 5 and 6, I believe, or 5 and 7. Again, they probably nitpick, right? Like they spend hours and hours probably diving into measurables and different things. But like just for me, going off the eye test, what I've seen against level of competition, after Abdul Carter, I don't know how you don't have Thornton and James Pierce the next two. Which my rankings, I can do what I want. I did have them 2-3, so yeah, this is another one that I think PFF had their 10, which you have no arguments with. But I think you and I both added an extra 1 or 2 that PFF had not even in the top 10. So even the first position we're looking at, depth, we're already looking at 12, 13 different edge rushers that we just find extremely talented.
Yeah, and I think edge rushers are a really important position, right? Especially in today's NFL. I think we discussed last night with the guys, J&L. Thank you guys for coming on. 1 second makes a huge difference for a quarterback. A half second makes a huge difference for a quarterback. You guys watch Sunday Night Football, they always put the little ticker on the, from snap to the throw, right? And Chris Collinsworth always breaking it down, saying, hey, if you're holding it within X amount, then, you're not going to, outside of like the Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, those guys who can extend plays. But then you look back to like Russell Wilson, holding on to the ball for 4, 5, 6, even sometimes 7 seconds, and just holding on to it. then you start thinking about some of these quarterbacks that are coming into the NFL. They hold on to the ball a little too long. Caleb Williams, for example, for last year, took too many sacks holding on. So again, edge rushers are important because then now you got to find ways to combat Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, not letting them hold on, because once they get into that double-digit mark, I mean, they're going to make something out of it. So
Yeah, those are the ones you want them to actually throw it quick.
yes,
The longer they hold on to it, the higher success rate goes up for them. Um, yeah, I think what goes into the grades for edge rushers is their ability to like set the edge on running as well. But for me in today's NFL, that really isn't that important anymore. I'm looking for true pass rush skill. Yeah, I mean, are you reading it, man?
all right.
Oh, we know it's not internet.
So we're back on. We apologize for that. We're going to go ahead and take OBS off and kind of roll with just Riverside for now. So now we're going to get this fun part of, we're going to pull back up our rankings and just read them off to you guys as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think before we got booted, I was talking about, I think part of what people put into their grades and rankings for edge rusher is the ability to stop the run. Is it important? Yes, I just don't think it's that important anymore. I think you're just looking for true pass rush, either already talent or like is there a foundation there to grow into your pass rush? And then you got to look at athleticism for the reason you just said, right? The Mahomes, the Daniels, the Lamars, the Josh Allens. I want you to be able to run them down. You can win your pass rush. You can get through. If you can't catch them, then all that doesn't matter. So I think that goes into the PFF grade a little bit on some of these, which is why I think Scorton and Pierce would be down a little bit more. They're just true athletic pass rushers. Again, is it important? Absolutely. But really, only a few teams actually run the rock consistently or even try to do anything successful with it. So, I don't know. I do want I'll let you go over your list and if there's any like ones you wanted to point out, but uh, this is the first position we go 15 deep that I would feel comfortable with my favorite team drafting.
Yeah, honestly, Abdul Carter's obviously the best one. But outside of him, I'm going to talk about uh, Timalu, the dude from Ohio State.
Yep.
I think of this 10, he has a good chance of being a sleeper. Just being able to watch him, and I guess, I mean, you think back to the college football playoff, that Ohio State team was just ridiculous to begin with. From, all the offensive weapons that they have, now you look at their defensive players that they had, and I think this guy, obviously, a huge part of their success. I do, he maybe a little bit of Latu from UCLA last year, who did get a little run with the Colts. So I think I like him, and I probably maybe would have him up higher, but again, it's so deep that honestly, they didn't even have him as their top 10, but I liked him enough where I think he could be a difference maker. And even if you think back to it or look on maybe a little deeper level of it, he could be like the 11th, 12th, 13th. But either way, I think if you're in that top 10 to 12-ish, I don't know if I'm willing to go out there and say top 15, but I think if you're in that top 10 to 12 range, you have a chance to be a difference maker.
Yeah, no, and I think the only knock on that JT Chuamalu guy He lacks a little bit of the athleticism. I think his strengths are absolutely effort. He is a technique person as well. Um, I do think him lacking the athleticism is why he's down a little bit. But if your strengths coming in is just effort and energy, high motor, uh, you're not going to hear me complain. Uh, and I wanted to call out Landon Jackson. That's kind of what he is when I think of it too. Maybe a little more athleticism, but that dude doesn't matter. He's going to run through a wall, play after play after play, 70, 80 snaps a game. Productive, maybe, maybe not, but he's never not going to try. Uh, so I have him, JT, and then I have Josiah Stewart from Michigan, who's kind of the same. High motor, a little undersized, uh, but I tend to lean towards the effort and energy guys. So that's why I have those 3, 8, 9, and 10 in my top 10, because there's always a place for those kind of people on a team.
Yeah, and just kind of peeking back over, honestly, this is one that I for the most part, agreed with PFF and their rankings. I mean, outside of, I think, maybe 2 or 3 that I switched around and then obviously moved out of my top 10. But again, even though PFF has them in their top 10, I would still, they may not be in mine, but I still would have them in that top tier or top 12 kind of position ranking myself. So, yeah, outside of Abdul Carter, though, I mean, maybe James Pierce or Scorton, if they're in the right situations, have that superstar ability. I think Abdul Carter has a chance to be better than Mike Parsons if he's healthy enough. But again,
Yeah, I think from a true pass rush standpoint, he could. I think what makes Michael Parsons special is he can do everything. Pass rush on the edge, pass rush up the middle, cover pretty well. Um, but just as a pure pass rusher, I don't see why not. Uh, obviously, health is a big thing for Abdul Carter, but there's a reason he's going to be one of the first couple picks.
well, and I think if he does end up going to the Browns, he's got a chance to learn from Myles Garrett, kind of the work ethic, what it takes to be great. So I think if you pair him up with Myles Garrett, I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm sorry, but luckily their offense probably won't be able to keep up points wise. But we'll never know, Joe Flacco. So moving on to our interior D line, I'll go ahead and PFF has Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, Grant, Nomar Lott, Talik Williams, Derek Harmon, Alexander, Sanders, West, Turner. That's their top 10. I have no arguments as far as that goes with their top 2. You have someone different at number 2. We'll have you go through that.
Yeah, I think I'm not per se a Michigan fan, but I do enjoy Michigan, so my bias might be showing a little bit. I like Mason Graham 1 and Kenny Grant 2nd. A little biased maybe, but I think no matter, well, I guess you disagree. I think Graham, Grant, and Nolan are by far away the top 3, and then I do think there's a little gap between the next set. But I think those 3, no matter the order they go in, are all Pro Bowl, all pro caliber players. I probably put Grant 2nd just because I'm a Michigan bias, but the top 3 interior defensive linemen in this draft are absolute ballers. I know it's, to some people, it may not be a sexy pick. To me, absolutely, like, this is what makes teams sexy to watch, are the big uglies up front on both sides. And this is a draft, I'm telling you, this interior defense, we only have a top 10. This one truly does probably go 15 plus deep. Obviously, once you start getting to like 10 to 15 range, it's a little less like every down, all pro level, but still more contributing. But I absolutely love this position. Chiefs need some in this draft, and if we could double dip or even triple dip from this list, I'd consider it a victory.
Yeah, I have Talik Williams number 3 in mine. I have Graham 1, Walter Nolan 2, Williams 3, and then Grant 4, and Harmon 5. I know I did my mock draft for Denver at 20. I went Luther Burden the first go around, and then I went running back second. Honestly, in the end, if Denver wants to take any of these top 5 guys, at 20, yes, all day.
Especially if one of the top 3 balls, Sean Payton better sprint that thing up.
Yes. Yes. You're not. I love Zach Allen. I really do. And what he's been able to do in his 2 years at Denver. Fact is, this dude's going to get north of $25 million a year. Denver's not really there as far as they still need to pay Nick Benito. You know, we're starting to see these other young guys that we drafted. They're coming up on contract here. There's no harm in taking a Walter Nolan. I think there's a 0% chance Mason Graham falls to 20, but if he does, yes.
I'd be so sad.
Yeah, no, I don't see Mason Graham getting past the Chargers. He's, I guess
to me, he's a top 10 pick. So if he's anywhere near 20, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, I really want Walter Nolan or Talik Williams. I wouldn't be upset if it was Harmon either. I just think in the end, you got to build the depth. There's no harm in having this guy sit and play behind DJ Jones, Zach Allen for a season, and then who knows? I mean, maybe Zach Allen doesn't command $25 million a year, but are you really wanting to risk that? D lineman,
the Chiefs were held hostage with our one interior defensive lineman we had. Granted, Chris Jones and Zach Allen may be a little different. Statistically, they're pretty similar, honestly.
Yeah, last year they were very similar.
Yeah, so they know that, and their agents definitely know if they can hold you hostage.
Yes.
And there's no hate towards Chris Jones for me on that. Like you're playing the cards that are dealt. But to what he's saying, they can absolutely hold you hostage. So plan now before you get in that position.
And that, think to Denver right now. I don't think, yes, could they use a receiver? Maybe, but at 20, no. Do we need a running back? Absolutely. That is absolutely a need. But again, if you've listened to any of the last few episodes, this is so deep where you can go D lineman first round. You can still get your running back second, third round if you need to if you're planning on double dipping. I don't think Denver is looking to do that. I could be wrong. But D lineman is absolutely a priority. You got to do this. So that's why I'm from here on out saying Denver's got to go D line in the first round at 20. It doesn't matter which one of those top 5. Give me one of those top 5 guys, and I'll be happy with the first round. And then we'll see if I have that same energy next week after Denver does make that first round selection. Let's talk about your number 10.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure. Is his name actually Deshaun? I don't remember. It's something Watson from Florida. I put him at 10. PFF had him down a ways, and I mean, you can understand why. Everything on the D-line and edge rushers, it starts and ends with pass rushing. Not exactly a pass rusher, but he is a 440-pound just monster up the middle. In a perfect world, if he doesn't go to Kansas City, I would love to see him end up in Tampa Bay, just so I can see him and Vita Vea line up beside each other.
Oh, dear God.
That, you're not running up the middle. He's going to be probably a 5th-round pick at best, but it's one of those. He's going to make a team just for goal line packages, honestly. And then whatever he can turn into from that, it's going to be up to him. But the dude wrecks havoc for his size. I absolutely love him.
Our boy Tim says he's trying to lose weight.
Not the worst. I mean, he has a few pounds he can benefit from losing for sure. But I absolutely love his film.
Yeah, and maybe do lose some weight, but at the same time, you don't want to lose too much of it, right? Like, you still got to,
He'd probably still get down to 400 and that's still a big man.
That is still a very large man. And I guess I never really thought about him next to Vita Vea. Vita Vea by himself, I mean, my God, that dude's a one-man wrecking crew, or like Pierce.
You have some 1980s defensive coordinators being able to see that and just drooling, because that would have been, I mean, when they ran the football 90% of the times, good luck doing it against 900 pounds of man up the middle.
It would be like when the Chiefs used Ontari Poe as the running back.
Oh,
the goal line.
Yeah. Dude, could you imagine just having Baker Mayfield? Again, if they could tush push.
And they do put Vita Vea in the backfield.
Well, I just meant tush push with Watson and Vea.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Dude, I could imagine it now. Bucks, if you're listening, I think we just found your goal line play.
Let's move on to linebacker. This is another deep position. You might as well just shoot 500. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Embrace it.
Embrace it. Like, shit, man, who knows? Yes, you may only be a one down back or a one down type of D lineman, but at the same time, like,
I'm gonna quiz you and see how good your memory is and how well you know. Do you remember who one of my favorite D tackles was in the past? Had an awesome nickname.
oh god, dude.
Snacks.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what this
Danny
dude could
Harris.
turn into, right? Like nothing sexy, but still just a quality player. Will he be top 10? Will Watson actually finish top 10?
Is it D tackle? No.
No. But I just wanted to make sure I threw him on there, just to give him love, to let people just be aware of him, and kind of just keep an eye out because I think he's going to be a fun just story to follow.
Yeah, no, he is, and I remember them showing videos and highlights of him at Florida. Yeah, he's something. So let's move on to linebackers. This is another position where
My favorite.
if Denver were to get one of these top 3 guys at 20, actually, maybe the top 2 guys at 20, I would be okay with this. So it's a Jihad Campbell, Walker, Knight Jr., Swessinger, Chris Paul Jr. I didn't know Chris Paul had a son. Bassa, Carter, Kaiser, King, Simon to round out PFF's top 10. I do like Kobe King as like a third, fourth.
He's a sneaky one.
I think even like a 5th round guy from Penn State. I remember, watching Penn State often. Oh yeah, we did. We watched it because of Andy.
Yep.
KU's old offensive coordinator going to Penn State. I like Kobe King and I like a couple of others. And then our guys over here, Carson Schlesinger is a monster. Yeah, he is. I actually put him at number 6 on mine.
I removed him from the top 10.
Out of the top 10. It's his list, I guess.
This is another, I've been saying it before college football ended. Inside linebackers is absolutely loaded in this draft. So even though I don't have him in the top 10, he's still a good player. This is just, I know inside linebackers is a dying breed, kind of, but they're still one of the most important people on your defense. So it's a common theme for defense. It's a good year to need this position.
It is, and I like Kaiser out of Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame defensive players. I'll say Kyle Hamilton, and then we'll get to another one here shortly. But I like Kaiser as more of like a depth piece. Honestly, with Denver, he could honestly probably come in and start. As bad as Denver is, with the linebacker position. So Kobe King, Kaiser, those are the guys that I would like in the 4th or 5th round. We know that they're going to play special teams, and that's good. At the start, right? They're not going to come in and be glue guys right away. But there is a guy on our top 10 that I do think could come in. I think he is like a late day, probably, I would say maybe a day 3 guy. Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma. But I do think this guy could come in, and I do think he could play right away, depending on, obviously, the situation and who takes him. Talk about a high motor guy.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, you don't watch Oklahoma football often, but we do have family who are Oklahoma fans, and so we do kind of pay attention to Oklahoma a little bit. And there's always he was always one that kind of stood out. When you think back to like the lineage of Oklahoma linebackers, right? They're not going to come in and do much in the NFL. This one's a little different.
Yeah, no, I think at his floor is just basically a high floor special teams guy. But I actually think he can work himself into like a Drew Tranquil type role, which that's not like Drew Tranquil's a very important player. He's made some money. It's one of those that no one's ever going to mention him, but fans of the team or the people who watch the team, they're aware that he plays for them and realize how important he is. And I think that's exactly what Stutzman will be. Like, is he going to probably be the first player you think of with whatever team he goes to? Probably not. But before it's all said and done, he's going to have an impact, and people are going to realize that a lot of the good things that happen defensively are because of him.
And I think of him as an Alex Singleton type player. Obviously, he's a little more stacked than what Singleton is. And then obviously, I'm not sure what Singleton's going to look like coming back from his ACL injury. What I do know about Singleton, when he is healthy, he's a tackling machine. Is he going to take the greatest angles? No, not really. Does he basically pad his tackling stats after like 6 or 7 yards? Yes. I think Stutzman may be a little bit better as far as like his angles. He's not going to be the burner to the sidelines that some are, which is why I put him at 10 and not higher, right? But then you look at Campbell, Walker, those guys, those are the linebackers that can get sideline to sideline, and which is why I wouldn't mind Denver going that route in the first or second round. Again, running back, D-line, linebacker, I need those addressed in the draft for Denver. I see plenty of names on this that can be plug-and-play guys.
Yeah, I think a perfect situation for Denver. I don't think Chiefs, they might prioritize it because we usually draft one to play our musical linebackers. Now that we've paid Bolton, that those musical chairs might be stopped. So I think a perfect one for Denver is Jay Higgins from Iowa. PFF didn't have him in the top 10. I have him 9. My player comp for him, and the only reason I even somewhat think it'd be good for Denver, my player comp for him is Demario Davis. Sean Payton got him to New Orleans. Cerebral, athletic, makes the plays that are there. Which you and the linebackers you've had to watch recently, sometimes your dudes are always in the right spot, but they just
Can't tackle.
50-50 might make the play. I like Higgins. He's fast, athletic, cerebral. He's going to make the plays he's supposed to make. I think he would be an ideal late round 3, early round 4 for Denver, and he would come in and play right away. Even if it wasn't the plan, I just think the more that they're around him and the more he does and, the training camps and practices, they're going to see that it's a dude who just belongs on the field. But that's another one PFF didn't have top 10 that I moved up there. But again, it is an absolutely deep draft for linebackers. Whether your team needs starters or depth pieces here, there's going to be just an absolute barrel bin to pick from. If you can't get one of those top ones, like at the top of the draft, Walker and Campbell, I think you are better off waiting for that Kaiser, King, Higgins, Stutzman area to not overdraft, but get a real quality player.
Yeah, and for an update for you who care about hockey, Blues are up 3-2 at the end of 2. They're in intermission right now. Blues looking to take game 1. They're 20 minutes away, so we'll see how that goes. Do you have anything else on the old linebackers before we move to one of our favorite positions?
Well, I mean, all of defense is my favorite position. Linebackers are my absolute favorite, so I really hope I'm just not wrong on it. I don't want to lose any cred that I have at the linebacker position. But no, nothing more to add to the linebacker position.
So let's go corner. And obviously, one of your favorite players in the draft is on this list. So we'll go PFF. They have Hunter, Barron, Johnson, Amos, Morrison, Hairston, Revel, Porter, Thomas, and Strong. That's their 1 through 10. You're a big Will Johnson guy. I'm going to give you the mic and let you have your Will Johnson moment.
Yeah, I mean, shame for Travis Hunter being in the draft, right? Like, you're never really going to have an argument on why someone's better than Travis Hunter. When it comes to just pure cornerback play, though, I mean, I still put Travis Hunter 1, but if we're just talking pure cornerback play, I would put Will Johnson 1. But with that being said, just a big dude, fundamentally sound, maybe a little, I mean, you can say he's come back from his injury. You don't really know until you get into like game speed, game action. That could be a little worrisome, but he's got what you need: technique, size, speed, ball skills, tackling. One of the, and I don't use this term for people in the draft very often. I think Travis Hunter and Will Johnson are 2 surefire draft picks. No matter where they go or where they end up, they're going to be quality ass players.
When I think back to Sancherso, who you were high on last year too, and I think you may have actually had him in your top 3. We obviously don't have that list anymore, but I know that you were kind of beating the drum for Sancherso, and then the Commanders got him, and he had a really good rookie season with the Commanders. Is Will Johnson at that level, or
No, he's better.
You think he's better than Sancherso?
Yeah, I think what maybe separates Sancherso a little bit is he has a little bit more of that dog in him. Just like a little. I say that word a lot, I guess, to verify. He has a little more just like street toughness, right? You can have all the technique, size, and stuff, but to kind of separate yourself, especially at the cornerback position. Look, even Travis Hunter, these dudes are going to get roasted plenty of times still, no matter how good they are. But you kind of got to have that toughness to you to be able to just not let that spiral into plays. You can basically watch any Chiefs corner this last season who wasn't McDuffie. One bad play turned into just a bad season for most of the corners. So I think I don't see that dog in Will Johnson. He has all the fundamentals and all that down. But I think what made me just so sure on Sandster still was like there's something about him. He was a football player.
Mm-hmm.
Just that toughness. That might be the only thing that would separate him. But as far as just pure football talent goes, yeah, Will Johnson is one of the better corners that I think will be drafted in the last few years.
Yeah, and looking at the top 10, honestly, I know PFF has Barron as number 2. I don't see him as a first rounder. Maybe. I guess if it is, it's gonna be maybe the 28 and beyond.
That Chiefs range.
Yeah, like Chiefs range. Chiefs could use a player like that. Travis Hunter and Will Johnson aren't gonna fall that far. God, I hope that Will Johnson doesn't fall that far.
That'd be cool.
Chiefs won't draft him. Bills. Oh well.
We would trade with the Bills.
That's true. I'm not big on Barron. I think he could be, we'll call it fringe first rounder. I wouldn't make a bet that he would be a first round pick. I know certain ones say yes, certain say no. But I had Hunter 1, Johnson 2, and then my 3, Barron, Amos, Morrison. All those guys I think are second, third round. And then you get down to 7, 8, 9, 10. Those could be anywhere from 3rd to 6th. You could even throw a 7th rounder in there. This position's tricky, right? And we talked about this with the guys last night. Cornerback's really important, right? You're getting into an NFL now where teams have more than just one receiver. Not only do you have to worry about the 1s and 2s, but you have to worry about the slots. Now, on top of that, now you're throwing out tight ends who are lining up in slots, and you even have some tight ends who are lining up on the outside. So now you got to make sure that your cornerback depth is there. So you can't just have 1 and 2 corners. You got to have your 3rd and 4th, right?
Yeah, and the hard part with corners is you hope all these corners are really good. You just hope they go to situations where they're put in the right spot. Like even think about Cooper DeJean. He was okay as an outside corner, but that whole defense team and his individual just.
And he wasn't even a first round guy. And there's no one on this outside of the top 2. None of those guys are better than Cooper DeJean. He wasn't even a first round pick.
Yeah, but even with him, like Eagles are smart enough. As much as I don't like them, they realized him on the outside wasn't quite right, so they moved him inside, and that changed everything.
Right.
So some of these dudes, Barron, if he goes to a team and they try to have him be the number 2 outside corner, may or may not work. If he goes to a team where he can be the slot, may or may not work. These dudes have to get to a position where they know how to be used. I'm with you. I'm not as high on Barron. I like Morrison and Hairston a little bit more.
Yeah, you have Barron at 5.
I like the bigger corners just because if I'm drafting first couple rounds, I want them to be able to come in and be my number 2. So that's why I tend to go to kind of the bigger outside corner preference. But I agree. I think the top 5 on this list are all quality players, and that includes Barron. I have Barron at 5. All those dudes, as long as they come in and get put in the right position, will be big impact players.
Yeah, and these guys would be good starting off as your 5th corner, right, on your depth chart. Get some special teams run, maybe even some practice squad time for a year or 2. Then you never know what happens. But it's a position where and we saw it with Denver last year. Riley Moss is having a really good season, gets hurt. Now we have to start plugging guys in, and you see the drop off. Pat Surtain gets hurt and has to miss a couple games due to concussion. We saw how much Denver fell off on that, just based on the lack of depth at corner. I do like Denver taking a corner later on in the draft just to kind of build depth. We have some good young ones, but none that I'm quite sold on yet. And you got to be able to have more than one corner. Chiefs had McDuffie, but then Watson was okay, but then he breaks his ankle, right? Then you kind of see the fall off with Nazi and some of those guys. Was it Shamari Connors or Who else am I
We had
thinking of?
Nazi Johnson, Joshua Williams.
There you go.
We even had some Carson Wallace play. Uh, yeah, both of our teams were pure examples of why you need more than 2 or 3 corners.
Yeah, Barron could be there at 31, and I don't think that would even be a reach because, again, I still think he's a fringe. So if you were to pick him at 31,
Nah.
maybe. But again,
Mostly because I think Morrison and Hairston would still be there.
that's true. And Harrison's kind of a big body guy too. So he fits the mold.
I would prefer taking one of our like 7 through 10, or the ones that we have ranked like 7 through 10. I'd rather take those in like the 3rd or 4th round. I know it's a huge position for the Chiefs. We did get Bolton, so not quite as big of a need.
He's gonna be a slot.
He is, which is why I think getting one of the bigger ones to go outside. I would still not put it as. I think we have bigger glaring holes than corner to draft one at 31. But drafting any of the ones we have kind of down the list, round 3 or 4 or 5, that's kind of where Chiefs have kind of hit their corners anyway. Would be my preference if you can't get one of the top 2 or 3.
So let's take some time. You're 8, 9, 10. My 9 and 10. KU, K-State guys. We do spend a lot of time talking about the KU guys, and we're especially going to spend a lot of time talking about 2 of these guys. I do want to touch on Jacob Parrish real quick because he played at K-State. He's really good. Yes, 9th and 10th, somewhere in that range. Some have had him off the top 10. I still like him on the top 10. K-State defensive players are usually pretty solid as far as that goes. I do like his ability. He is aggressive at times, but most young corners are. But this is a guy who, you get him in the 3rd or 4th round, I think he could end up being a plug-and-play guy. Maybe not right away to start the season, but I do think he finds his way onto the field as the season progresses.
Yeah, and because as much as we don't like to say it, K-State guys come in really close to just ready to play because they're just fundamentally sound. A little less now, post Bill Snyder era, but still, K-State players are just fundamentally sound. They're coached well with technique and all that. So I agree. I think all 10 or all 3 of our lists could come in and play. Maybe not be one of the top 3, but definitely be your 4th or 5th corner and working their way up. But I like Parrish. He's fundamentally sound, pretty good speed. He is aggressive, not the worst thing. I mean, we could say the same thing about Kobe Bryant. Double moves almost all the time.
All the time.
You live and die with. I mean, if you're really happy with the rest of the corner, like the rest of his game, and your 3rd or 4th or 5th corner will occasionally be a little too aggressive, you'll live with it. It's not the worst thing to happen. So, corner is another deep position. I think, it's a little. Only the top 2, maybe 3, are come in and be legitimate, like all pro worthy. But again, I think you're 10 to 12 deep at this position as well as people who can come in right away.
Yeah, so let's spend a couple minutes on Melo and Kobe. 2 guys who've had a pretty good run with us the last couple years. It's about as close to a keep to leaving Chris Harris as we're going to get as far as from a statistical standpoint and what they meant to the program, essentially. We talked last week or earlier this week about KU players and seeing guys in the NFL. Melo Dotson is probably the better technique guy as far as being more pro ready. But there's nobody that you're going to find in this draft tougher than Kobe Bryant. So they each bring their own kind of unique skill set to the NFL. I watched Kobe just dominate, right? They both lead the program in pick sixes and interceptions. So again, we've had Chris Harris and Aqib Talib, who had, obviously we know how those guys' career went at KU. That was back the last time KU was actually nationally prominent, essentially. These guys helped remold the defense and what KU was able to do over the last few years. I know you're a huge Kobe Bryant guy, but I think you also have Melo at number 8 on your list. So let's give you some time to talk about Melo and Kobe.
Yeah, I mean, these 2 and Devin Neal are the 3 cornerstones of what's turned the corner for KU football. I like Dotson and Bryant, just given their size, and in today's NFL, you have to tackle. Uh, you know, we can say all we want about their ball skills and coverage skills, but these dudes are two willing tacklers, even for being on the smaller side as far as like weight goes. Uh, you were spot on with Kobe. There's no one tougher. The dude flies around like he's a 240-pound linebacker, and he's like a 120-pound corner. I am curious though. I think they're both very scheme specific. They're going to have to go to a predominantly zone scheme defensively, which I think is why they're ranked as low as they are. A lot of teams are pretty man schematically, but again, I don't know if either one's going to come in and be one of your top 2 or 3 corners right away, but they'll make your team. They'll probably be better than your current replacements, but these are the dudes who I think have really good foundations that can be coached up.
Yes.
And I think the same Mello Dotson, Parrish from K-State, and then Kobe Bryant, all 3 of those have really great foundations. So I think they have really high floors, and their ceiling can go as high, honestly, as they wanted to in the organization. So I think when you start to get to that range of these lists at 8, 9, 10, and down, you're really just looking at how good of a pick is it now, but how good of a pick can this be? And I think those dudes are just, all 3 of them, their ceilings are just, they can go as high as all pro, just given their foundations.
Yeah, we were able to see what Chris Harris was able to do as an undrafted guy, right? All pro, Super Bowl champion, really good career. Went from basically being an undrafted guy to playing right away and making a huge impact. And then obviously Aqib Talib was the first round guy, but none of these guys are built like Aqib Talib was. Again, I think put a couple more inches and about 30 more pounds on these guys, then yeah, they probably are being talked about as maybe late first, early second round position picks, but they're just not. That size does matter when it comes to corner, right? So moving on to our last position, the safety. There's some good names on this one. I want you to talk about your number 9. He was not on PFF, so I guess I can read PFFs real quick. From 1 to 10, Starks, Winston, Watts, Kuba, Emma Worry, Ransom, Mickens, Sanker, Bowman, Castro. You have one that you moved up to 7, and then you have one that you added on. I'll let you start there.
Yeah, I like Castro from Iowa. The more I talk, the more I think I might just have some Big Ten favoritism going on. I don't know. So I have him 7, where PFF has him 10. But at number 9, I moved into my top 10, Malachi Moore from Bama. It's one of those where I think Bama sometimes has so much talent that occasionally some dudes get overlooked, and I think that's the case here. I don't really know much more to say other than, like, is he your typical Bama safety? Maybe not quite that good, but I do think this will end up being, quote unquote, just another Bama defensive player in the league, right? Like, he's going to come in, he's just going to do his job, he's going to be good. I think this again goes to show how much depth is at this position as well. If he goes where PFF is saying he's supposed to go, 140, 160 range. So I mean, we're talking pretty late in the draft here, kind of the midway mark. But yeah, I just like what Malachi Moore brings. He's not as sexy of a pick as Malachi Starks, or not Malachi. What is his name? Starks.
Oh God, I don't remember.
I don't either.
I haven't paid too much attention.
Georgia guy.
Yeah.
We just list the first initial. So M Starks. He's not as sexy of a pick as that, but again, he can come in and be like a Jaden Hicks type pick in that middle range, and then when you watch during the draft or after the draft, and they're going to talk about what was the biggest steal of the draft, and somebody's going to say Malachi Moore going in the 6th round was an absolute ball out of a pick. So I like him, but this is another list where I like 10 to 12 players.
Yeah, I moved Xavier Watts and Makuba up 2 and 3. I moved Winston down to 4. I mean, that's not to say Winston's not the second best here. I like Xavier Watts. I think, and you made the point last night of everyone was saying kind of the same thing about Kyle Hamilton, and he fell to 17. I still don't think Watts is a first-round guy, but I do think he could end up being a steal and someone who does make an immediate impact. I get the whole size, slow, just certain things, and I know you had a pretty good take on it last night.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we fall in love with combine numbers and pro day numbers, which, yeah, analytic purposes, I guess. But at the end of the day, I think what matters the most is putting on game tape. Uh, Watts is another one. I I do think he is first round talent, but unfortunately, I think this draft is so talented across the board that he does slip. He is going to be a really good pickup in the second round for someone. I think him and Eamon Worry, both of those dudes are going to be high quality round 2 picks. Uh, again, safety's probably down the board a little bit as far as uh, positional importance, which is why I think they slip a little further down the overall board than some others. But yeah, I think the top 3 picks, Starks, Watts, and Eamon Worry, all really quality. I don't want to say safe picks, but just where they're going to go, it's going to be just incredible value.
Yeah, safety is on my wish list for the draft, not the first round, obviously. We could find a way to get Makuba in the third round. That would be great. I don't know if he makes it to the third round, but I don't want a first round safety. I don't really think maybe Starks, but outside of that, I still wouldn't. I still don't think any of these safeties are going to get taken in the first round. But again, there's enough depth here where you can get one in the third, fourth, or fifth round and be happy with what they do, even if that means they're a special teams guy for a year or two. Again, a lot of these guys, and I bring up special teams a lot, just based on that's how a lot of these guys are going to get their start, right? A lot of these guys aren't going to come in and make immediate impacts. A lot of these guys aren't going to come in and make, the top 3 on the depth chart. How are they going to make the team? Special teams, being the gunners, being on kickoff coverage, punt return, stuff like that. So this is a position that you do look at stuff like that as far as like being a special teamer. So it's nothing on what they are as a player. It's just you got to look at the bigger picture here, and a lot of these guys aren't going to be starters right away. They're probably not even going to be starters in the first couple of years of their career. Some of these guys will. I think top 3 or 4 maybe. But again, you got to look and you got to take special teams into consideration when you start getting into that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, even the undrafted rank. Because there's probably guys on this top 10 that could go undrafted. That's just the nature of the draft and how it pans out. So, any other remarks on safeties?
No, it's another really, really deep class of safeties. I do think because just positional importance, I think you're right. Some of these dudes may actually go undrafted or 6th, 7th round. Nothing wrong with that.
Just watch you cross check in the back.
Yeah, Blues doing Blues things when it matters most. But yeah, no, again, these defensive positions, like they're pretty loaded. It's a good year to not need a quarterback because the rest of your draft is kind of just there's a wealth of talent. Safeties, I agree. Top 2 or 3 are should come in right away, but the rest, like you said, they're gonna have to come in. Special teams, 1 or 2 might get the chance due to injury or just lack of quality play ahead of them on the depth chart and just giving them a shot. But yeah, there's a lot of talent here, and I'm ready for the draft to get here.
Yeah, so am I. And we got a busy week coming up too. So Tuesday we're gonna hop on with Couch Coach Live, do his draft episode. He was on our show about a week. I mean, it's all kind of running together.
In the past,
we've recorded so much over the course of the last week, and we do appreciate everyone who's tuned in and everyone who's kind of commented and taken part of the discussion. So we'll do that And then we do have the Three Guys, Six Balls NFL podcast coming on Wednesday, our normal recording night. That time's going to be pushed back an hour to accommodate those guys. And we're super excited to have them on.
Can't wait.
And then from there, I mean, we'll have an Emporia State alum who I went to Emporia State with, I believe, around the same time that he did. Levi Ashmore will be on. He has his own baseball podcast, so it'll be exciting to talk to him. I know he's a baseball coach in Iola right now, and I think I saw they were on a 10-game win streak to start their season. I think they had a huge game against Paola, and I remember coaching against Paola in my coaching days. I know that was probably a tough game, so excited to talk some baseball with him, and just another guy who does a sports podcast that we're excited to be able to talk about how they got going on theirs. And then we'll have Micah joining us at the end of April, so that'll be like a post-draft type episode. So again, thank you to everyone who's reached out to us and either coming on our show or asked us to come onto your show. This is kind of how we envision this going. So yes, while we are recording a lot, that's kind of how we envision everything going from, yeah, it's cool to record once a week, but then, now we're starting to pick up and do more shows. It's been fun. Thanks to the guys, J&L, the breakdown with J&L came on with us last night. Go follow those guys. They were great. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, no, I think you said it all. I appreciate everyone who follows, supports, gives feedback, tips, comments, interacts. That's mostly the reason we started to do this. So the more interaction, feedback, and just collaboration we can get, the better. It's much appreciated, and just looking forward to continuing it.
All right. So I know we don't have our Scrolly kicker right now since we kind of did away with OBS tonight. But find us on Instagram, find us on X, find us now on TikTok. And I think I try to post TikTok. I'm still remembering that we have TikTok, so the posts are still working on making their way there. But our X, our followers and our numbers are going up there. And again, get us to 1,000 on Instagram, and we're still planning on doing another giveaway once we hit 1,000 followers. Come subscribe to YouTube. I think we're at 30 some subscribers there, but we're getting a handful, bits and pieces here and there. So until next week, talk to you guys then.